So as promised, I've been following along this weekend looking for a lot of the terms, industry terms that we talked about in this week's lesson in the typical standardized education model. And I've actually jotted down quite a few. And what I really found interesting was the whole factory school model, which was discussed quite a bit this week. And I'm sure you've seen this photo before, but it shows the factory school model. I think it's gonna go up on my fridge, so I can keep that in the back of my mind at all times. And I'm sure that you know the writings of Elwood, Patterson, Cubberley, and he saw the logical and methodical approach of scientific management as a way of public education to adapt to influxes of children entering the system. So our schools are, in a sense, factories. Oh, good morning, Mr. DeTrolio. Trying to record a quick little video here for Darren. No, it's okay.
Are you coming to stop?
I am. I'll be right there. So some of the terms that really stood out to me this week were things like machining children to be better producing students. And as well as machining, we call a lot of our machines here machines. We don't call them the bandsaw necessarily, or the CNC machine. We say, go over to the machine. Machine is the word that keeps popping up, getting programmed in the students' minds. Control is another big one that we talk about. Controlling students, controlling what they do, how they do, when they do. Separating students was another one that really stood out. Separating students from the groups or pairs, or the stronger students with the students that need help. We're always trying to find some kind of balance, so we're separating students into what we perceive as teachers as ideal situations. Routine was another one that sticks out. We've all heard routine in the school system many times, but it's a programming thing. Instrument. It's another one. We always talk about instruments. We don't like to call our pencils a pencil. We say grab your instrument. Or if we're in the shop, grab your measuring instrument. I don't know why we focus so much on saying instrument in classrooms. I find that a bit peculiar. Late, checking in, checking out, punching and punching out, those kind of things. Roll call. Again, it's very, very rigid in that sense and how we approach it. Is it because we're preparing kids for the future in industry, or just as adults in working class society? I'm not sure. That's one that really stood out. Another one. If my friggin' chalk didn't break. Mold. We're always trying to mold students, mold them into something else. We're trying to form them, fit them, mold them. And those are a couple words that came up in our reading this week, was molding, forming, and fitting. Shaping, refining, drill. Drill in the student's head. Not so much an industry term, I guess it could be in a sense, but to me that's more like military. We're trying to get these young people to be structured individuals. And I guess that's one of the biggest issues I had in this week's lesson was, to me, there was more military terms in there than there was industry terms. And I think they're very interchangeable, obviously, but that's one thing that I found interesting is we didn't really talk about military terms when we're talking about the traditional school model, which I think it really, when you're talking about molding and separating and roll calls and drilling and things like that, that indicates more of a structured military system. And which is funny, when the industry terms came into play back in the 30s and 40s, we were also at war. So I find it funny that we glossed over the fact that there's a lot of military terms when it comes to talking to students and referencing students. Clamp down was another one. Clamp down as if we are the ones that are controlling them. We are the ones that are dictating whether or not they have the freedom to explore, the freedom to move. We are in control of their behaviors, their actions at all times. And document's another big one. Everything is document. You know, we talked about assessing and evaluating and how those quality control type ideas are in industry. And those ideas fly in flocks and all that. Another one was forge. Forge, obviously an industry term. But again, we're talking about the early 1930s, 20s, 40s, when we were at war, and we were in industry forging parts for the military. So I found it interesting for collecting all these words that I heard certain teachers say this week, and I found it very puzzling that we didn't talk about war. Maybe we did, and I glossed over it. It was a tough lesson to get through this week, Darren. It really was. I sometimes think that your teachings are a catch-all just for students pursuing education in general, and I think it kind of like neglects the fact that we are tech teachers and we're not going to apply a lot of these philosophical principles that we're being taught, whereas maybe a religion teacher or a social science teacher might be more inclined to imply a lot of those things. We're tech teachers, we are basically factories. We're preparing students for the workforce, where they're going to be working with their hands more than their minds. Don't get me wrong, we like to say that the trades are very intellectual, that you need to be intelligent to be successful in them, but at the end of the day, let's call a spade a spade. When you're working in the trades, you're basically working with your hands, you're working in a factory, you're following a prescribed set of rules, guidelines, standards at all times. You don't have a lot of freedom to be academically involved in what you're doing. So that's my little rant for the week. Again, I would love if you told me that maybe I missed some of the military terms or war terms that we associate to education. Again, I could have glossed over it, but yeah, I just found this really, really interesting that we still today employ a lot of these same terms that that came out in the 30s, 20s, whatever. It's quite interesting. So until next time, Darren, it's a PD day. I gotta jump into that right now, so I'll catch you later.